Content warning. The following show contains smoking, discussions of fictitious violence, a few psychological things that might make a few people feel uncomfortable, definite horror stories from the past containing bad actors, and a few things that might make people feel attacked, but I promise our intention is not to attack you. It is only to make people feel seen. Viewer discretion is advised. So I said something on that one. Well, I'm glad that's the case. I really am glad that's the case. So, you gonna start the title thing soon? I could, but I should probably start the music first. Don't you agree? Yeah. All right, so start the music. Hey everybody, how you guys doing out there? What is up? What is the word today? I am Solar Gray coming at you from the Wizard's Tower. Or should I say, I am Solar Gray, the cinematic sorcerer, the cinematic, coming at you from the Wizard's Tower. And welcome to the dark side of the room, where we talk about games and life. What, don't you know anything about life, Lisa? Yes, we know a few things about life, and we wanted to talk to you guys about life, love, games, gaming experiences, and all that stuff, and all those jazz. But guess what? I'm not here alone today. Oh, what is that? That's right. Today is a very special episode where we have with us a great entertainer, a great humanitarian, and one of the best supervillains I've ever met. You guys know him from various places in your bookstore, Amazon.com. We're also talking about all the social medias and all that stuff on TikTok, on Twitter, along with our Thursday show of The Legends of Ariadne. I'd like to welcome a great entertainer, a great humanitarian, a fantastic writer, and my dear friend for years, not a, but the Ruthless Wonder. How you doing, brother?
Doing good. How you doing yourself?
What was that?
I said, how are you doing yourself, man? How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm telling you, it is, I'm channeling Samuel L. Jackson in 1986, because it's like, hey, what is going on? The weather today? It's hot! But not as hot as it has been. Oh, man. So I want to thank you for being my Huckleberry out here today, because today's show is a real big, heavy subject. Okay, this is really, really heavy, and I figured, you know what? It would probably be good if I had somebody else in, and I get the message from you just as I'm having that thought. So what's today's show about? I'm like, oh, all right. Well, we're gonna do this. So thank you for being my Huckleberry. And where can the folks reach you?
So right now, it's really easy to reach me. Just look for The Ruthless Wonder on all social media. That's Facebook, that's Twitter, that's Instagram, that's TikTok. You can find me on all those places as The Ruthless Wonder. That's THE Ruthless Wonder. I know people like to spell it with two E's because of Meg Thee Stallion. But yeah, The Ruthless Wonder on all your social media.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. And if anybody has any questions on how they can get a hold of us, all you gotta do is pull up your email and type in. Well, first you gotta pull up your email and type in backanddeck@gmail.com. It's BACK@gmail.com. You can also hit me on Twitter and Instagram. But if you are on TikTok, just look up Big P. That's I'm doing. And thank you very much, Neon Arlecchino, for being my technical advisor on all this one and for throwing up the invitation to the Discord. So, isn't that fun? Now that we've got all that out the way, okay, now that we got all that stuff out the way. So, a funny thing happened to me last night, okay? Um, as you viewers out there know, I was supposed to have an instructional day of Warhammer 40k Combat Patrol just to make sure that I understood the rules. I was hoping I could teach some new people, and then they and I can go through the rule book and see what mistakes we made and make sure that them as new players and me as a new player to Warhammer 40k, we could all grow together. Unfortunately, they all flaked out. Life happens. What was that?
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, well, honestly, SoCal is a strange place in the sense
I
of.
remember. I
yeah,
remember.
yeah, well, man plans, gods laugh. So, um, see, that was your cue to laugh. See, that was, yeah. Come on, man,
I mean,
get with me on the comic timing.
I
Um,
am not a god in that I can stay. No, I'm not going to go into Mr. Nancy speech. Save that for my TikTok.
fine, fine. So, but my ride or die hit me up with, "What you got planned tomorrow?" I'm like, I got therapy, I got my show, and I got nothing after that really. Just cleaning up the house while listening to sad '70s soul music. And he's like, "Well, you want to get some gaming in? I'll come down." And I'm like, "Cool." He's like, "Yeah, what should I bring?" Now this guy plays Grey Knights. Okay, Grey Knights are his jam. And I'm like, bring the Grey Knight Combat Patrol. He's like, what's in it? Because I'm like, I know you got it. I already asked if you had those models. So he's like, well, let me look up what it has. And he hit me back with all these different things. And he was trying to do WYSIWYG. And he's like, all right, let me see if I got some that are put together with this weapon on it and that. And I'm like, dude, I dare you. Well, first off, I'm like, why you got to make this complicated? I did a copy paste from the sales page saying each box comes with blah, and I'm like, here, blah, you know. And he hit me up with that. Well, I want to make sure that everything looks right because it helps with my immersion. And something happened to me that you guys, as my viewers, I'm looking at you, Neon. I'm looking at you, Kata, you, Vision Vendors, you, Alisadra. Something happened to me that you guys ain't used to happening to me. And that was, I got triggered. I seriously got triggered. I'm just like, I dare you to use your imagination for the purposes of enjoying yourself. And we got into this long thing. Like, seriously, we got into this long thing. And I hit him up with the whole, I don't play WYSIWYG. And I don't, for those of you guys that don't know, WYSIWYG is what you see is what you get. Meaning, your little bitty toy soldiers, your models, these little guys right here have got to have exactly the same thing on their miniature as they do on the little card that you play the game with. And if they don't, you're cheating and you're kicked out of the tournament. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't. And he was like, he used that word immersion. And I'm like, just stop. Just stop, because I hear a lot of the culture. And I hear it a lot from 40K. I hear it a lot from a lot of tabletop miniatures games. Well, it's got to be immersion. I want it to be cinematic. I want to do. I'm like, dude, we are playing with toys. And let's take a look at where this comes from culturally. And yeah, this is Old Man Yells at Games Workshop. You want to get a word in here before I get this started?
Well, I just think that it's an interesting thing that immersion is so necessary in a medium that is fundamentally about imagination. Forgetting, for a second, just Warhammer specifically, but all tabletop experiences, whether it's a board game, whether it is pen and paper, whether it is classics like D&D and Pathfinder, and Cyberpunk and these other things. Whether it is wargaming like Warhammer, it's all fundamentally an imagination medium. You are not getting full size troops to move around the battlefield. These miniatures are not even the size of how you would handle troop movements in a war table, if you will, that they use for strategy, during actual wargaming. So in a
Well,
fundamental like imagination medium, to be like, I gotta have the models look exactly like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Because when you were 5, you didn't need that. And
mm,
this is
mm,
ultimately
mm.
you trying to rekindle that younger version of yourself just with fancier toys that cost more money.
Ha! Testify. Mm. Well, I'm sitting up. I'm like, it's already hot in here. It's already got the paper towel. I'm like, mm-hmm. And why do people got to play that wizard wig? Yeah. Huh. But I literally sat down with him and I'm like, look, this is where the culture comes from. All right. Oh no, immersion. I can't have. I have to have everything look exactly like for immersion. But, and I've talked about this before, the culture specifically of Warhammer 40k is tricking people into playing competitive tournaments, which is they host tournaments with these really staunch rules, and they call it organized play. And but this is where they push the rules of WYSIWYG and paint schemes and all that other stuff. And I'm like, okay, dude, check this out. In organized play, the rules are written like they're freaking legal contracts to keep people from cheating, and WYSIWYG is sold as, we don't want somebody coming up with gray models that have nothing on them saying, oh, well, these have all the biggest and best, i.e., to keep them from cheating. And don't you find it odd that the solution that this company says um, is the solution to cheating? Their methodology for stopping the cheating is for you to buy more of their stuff, you know, especially when they release like packs. They release models that have only a certain amount of weapons and a certain amount of loadouts, but they allow you to do more of that, but they don't sell weapons upgrade packs. So in order to make your models WYSIWYG, you got to buy 2, 3, 4, 5 copies of these $100 kits. And I'm like,
I'll go farther than that.
huh?
I'll go farther than that. You're forced to buy essentially repeats of the same models so that they can be painted the correct color for the type of army that you're using if they are from the same faction inside the world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
buy these green army men. Now you have to paint these green army men the correct colors for the Marines, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, and the Coast Guard. What?
and if one of your guys has a 45 and you don't have or if 3 of your guys have 45s, we only put one guy in the pack, the $70 pack that has a 45. So you have to buy 3 of these $75 packs in order to get the 45. So it's that kind of thing. Um, when it comes to that type of thing, I'm like, look, I don't play WYSIWYG, and I trust you not to cheat. And I could feel, and again, this was over Messenger, so we were typing and all that stuff, but I could feel the blood falling from his ears. Like, you trust me? What? What? I'm like, yeah, I don't think you're gonna cheat, and I don't cheat. So what's the deal with this? And then I got to thinking, um, the culture of when it all cost, at least here in Southern California, got so big that the assumption that the person that you're playing with is not a cheater has been essentially erased. There have been so many bad actors, or so much complaining about bad actors at tournaments, that there are, rules are written. And when I say bad actors, I'm not just talking cheaters. I'm talking the people that say, if the rules don't specifically say that I can't, then I can. The people that play to the letter of the ruling when it suits them, but expect you to play to the spirit of the ruling when it suits them. And there's been so much of that over the decades that doing these things for fun have become something that people go in guarded with. And that's what we're talking about today. If y'all got the notification that we were live and decided to come in, I said how bad actors can color the way we view playing with people and what to do to keep things fun for yourself. Yesterday I talked a lot about bad teachers, and this falls under that same principle. Okay, um, because I've been gaming for decades, and I see, like, one of the most common things I see are significant others, be it boyfriend, girlfriends, or date mates, or whatever the gender label is called, where you are and what your situation is. I see the person in the couple that plays the game and the person in the couple that doesn't just not play the game, but they don't want to learn, they don't want to see it, they don't want to be in the same room while it's happening. Um, and when I talk to people about it, I find that it comes from a bunch of bad actors souring people to the thing or triggering people's past traumas with the stuff that they never get over. And I wanted to re-go over the personal story because I put this in the announcement, so I got to talk about it real quick as to why it's taken me this long to play Warhammer 40K. And that is in the 80s and the 90s, gaming in and of itself, gaming, comics, anime were filled with so many mean, racist dudes that getting into these places came in with a bunch of social and emotional abuse. And very few people ever dropped the N-bomb, but they acted on it. But they kept that plausible deniability so that they didn't have to pay any social consequences. And I saw this most in Warhammer 40K. And I tell a lot of 40K players this, and I'm like, look, number one, and we're about to get mildly political, so but hang with us. My Latino friends that play Warhammer 40K don't get the same. I try not to use the R word very often when I talk about my experiences because the term anti-black is much more descriptive. So there are a lot of people that aren't racist because they're cool with Latinos and they're cool with Asians, and they don't treat Latinos or Asians or people from European countries or even Hindu people in the same way they treat black people. So the other people who are not American Caucasians don't get that treatment. Therefore, they don't think that racism is a thing. Okay? So I've started using the term anti-black because people think that if a person is a racist, they hate everyone that's not them, and that's not the case. And in the 80s and the 90s, a lot of anime, a lot of comics, and it's still this way, but it was more so back then, was very anti-black, like very. And it manifested in ways of people heightening up the amount and the volume, like the sound, the decibels of the racist jokes, they wouldn't say the N-bomb, but a whole lot of those, what do you get when a blah, 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 that kind of thing. Or they would talk about blackface a whole lot more when I was around than they did when I wasn't, according to the people that I knew that would be around when I wasn't. Not to mention, there was a lot of rulings that made it so that I would have to spend more money to be in the store, or I would spend the money and I still wouldn't be allowed in the store because of the management there. And most of this was in a place called Orange County, California, which is one of the most anti black places in Southern California. I think it's number two. Um, so that was my first four impressions to Warhammer 40K. And this was, it started in, God, I think 92. And the last time it happened was 2003. So after that, I'm like, screw this game, screw these players, I am out. But it's also been about 20 years. So, and with 10th edition, they did a couple of things I liked. And also, I've talked with a lot of other 40K players who play currently, the new breed, the millennials and the zoomers, and they're a lot different from the Xers and the boomers. So I'm like, all right, I'll give this a shot. But what I do see is because of the culture that had been cultivated for a lot of years, a lot of folks go into games not trusting that the people that they're about to play with are going to play fair. So that being said, what are your thoughts on this, Ruthless?
I mean, if we're gonna spend this hour talking about the racist tabletop fans, I got plenty of stories for you. Um,
I bet you're in
all
Kansas, right? So yeah,
right, if you put me in Kansas again, I'm leaving this call. I am
I'm
from
kidding.
Kansas City,
I
Missouri.
know. You're in Missouri. You're in Missouri. I know. It's yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Don't hurt me,
Um,
please.
which again, years and years ago, this would be a reverse conversation where I'd be happy to be from Kansas because Kansas was the less racist of the two states. That has not been the case for quite some time. Um, but yeah, there are gaming shops that I purposely don't go to just for how I was treated when I was coming in to find out about certain games. I mean, you hear about something that sounds interesting as a writer for most of my life. You find an interest in tabletop pretty young, and I didn't like how I was being treated. I'm there with my mom. I'm a kid, but I was one of those kids that could see what was really going on pretty early on. So when I don't like something, I don't go back there. I didn't like the way they were at the time gatekeeping, playing D&D in the store. It was very interesting. I remember one store in particular who will never get my page isn't up because I'm glad they're closed. Um, they wouldn't let you play unless you bought the books from them. Yet I saw people walking in with stuff that clearly couldn't have been bought from that store at the time he was telling me this. There are positive experiences too. I had a Sci-Fi City down in Orlando, Florida. Shout out to them. When I went off to law school down in Orlando, uh, they are probably my favorite of the shops I have ever been to for gaming. Not only did they have basically every mainline series that you can think of, your Warhammers, your D&Ds, your entire World of Darkness stuff, your Cyberpunk, but they also had other stuff that I'd never seen before. And one game, of course, I talk about all the time that I fell in love with, and that's the Deadlands series. I fell in love with Deadlands because of that story, and because they had everything. I got to learn how to play it. I got to learn how to run it. I all of that, all in just going and dropping by at different times. There was always somebody doing something, and like I said, a guy in the store just happened to really love it too. It was like, oh yeah, come back on this day, and I'll teach you about the game. So I've had plenty of those experiences that have been positive, but yes, the negative experiences have been, absolutely something to put you off of gaming. And it's not always the shop owners or the staff that are the problem. Sometimes it's just the other players that are interested in playing whatever it is. It's like I don't ever want to be around people like you, and I don't want to be associated with people like you because of whatever reason. Like sometimes it is the racist, sometimes it is this like assumed classes of things. Like I grew up in a decently comfortable family, so I've never really had a problem either going to get a job to make my own money or getting the support when I really needed it, from my immediate family.
All right.
But you assume because I came in with like a t-shirt on instead of a polo. Obviously, I wear a lot of polos now. But back then, I was very much in a like. I want you all to picture 1995 through 2001 Matt Williams.
Oh
It
my
is a
God.
pair.
Thank
And
you
it's a
very
thing.
much, and Tim, for the subscription, and thank you for using Bezos's money.
I want to give a quick shout out to our GM for the Thursday game and my Saturday game. Shout out to N10. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
He's always doing good stuff for us. But yeah, like 95 to about 2001, it is extremely baggy jeans. Matter of fact, it may even be Jinko jeans. Yes, I know. And it's some random t-shirt. Like it's the No Fear series.
You keep talking about that, and I'm gonna have to find some crisscross music.
Oh man. No, like it was a thing. I had a chain wallet. Like it really was a thing. So yeah, it really, you assume something based on the way I'm dressed, and it's like, bro, I can walk in here and buy whatever I want. Like this is not an issue for me. But if you're telling me that you have this opinion of me based on these clothes, I don't want to be associated with you in the first place.
Yeah, so that is a big thing, and I know we pulled the skin color card, but a lot of this, and I see this happen with people who identify as women as well, and I make that very clear because I'm talking about cis and trans and non-binary people who present sort of as female. And again, I mean that for my non-binary folks out there. Um, and the whole thing is not just the gatekeeping that comes from when you're there. We talk about that stuff all the time. But what I wanted to talk to people about is the way that a lot of folks have internalized the behavior that is based on being attacked, if you will. Okay. When I talk to my friends and I'm playing games with my friends, they're like, I have to have my models this way because of immersion. I'm like, didn't you learn that you had to have your models that way because you wanted to prove to the other people that you weren't cheating? Like, isn't that why that was the whole thing? Well, yeah, I mean, that was the thing, but immersion. And I'm like, hold up. This is the behavior that started when you had to prove that you weren't cheating. And now you're in the presence of someone who trusts you not to cheat. I just want you to sit with that for half a minute and see. I come at it from the opposite point of view, always being looked at as the person who's trying to get the advantage. One of my older GMs is one of those players that, as I've said many times before, if the rules don't specifically say that he cannot do what he's thinking about doing, sometimes by name, and I mean, if the published work from this company doesn't use his name and says, dude, we'll call him Michael, Michael, you can't do that, then he will do it. And I know a lot of people who think that. And the thing on that, volume keeps jumping all over the place. No, it's not that my mic is broken, Fried One. My mic is, what's the term? My interface is a little wonky. Okay. I think I have to upgrade my computer again. Anyhow, and one of the things, and this is a really big thing that applies to a lot of places other than gaming. All right. So keep an ear open. Okay. And just bear with us. All right. Because I know a lot of people at this point like to go, nope, he's talking about stuff I ain't comfortable with. I'm gone. I'm like, just relax and bear with me. Okay. A lot of habits that many people, what's the term I'm looking for? A lot of people cultivate habits based on not being trusted, based on lack of consequences, and based on being in a position where they're being accused of something. And so when this becomes the standard operating procedure, we lose the ability, just as people, to recognize when we're not being accused, when we're not. This is something that I'm dealing with in a lot of areas in my life, not just with games. I used to play with someone more than I played with anyone else, and they refused to believe that winning was not my prime motivation, and beyond winning not being my prime motivation, that I actually was more concerned with them having a good time than I was with me winning. And their behavior was, you're just saying that to throw me off my game. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, no. But then I realize a lot of bad actors, most bad actors in this day and age, say things that the people who aren't bad actors say and live by. But the bad actors say the words and then they act the opposite way. And this tends to cause trauma. It causes trauma. So when it comes to that, I've taken a lot of time to be the friend that goes, pause. Do you really believe that I think you're a cheater? Like, seriously, I want you to look me in the eye and say that you don't trust me to trust you, because I know that you wouldn't cheat when we're playing a game. There's no money on the line. There's nothing to win. And winning or losing is not a reflection of your character. I just want to play a game, push around some toys, and go pew pew and waha. And this is something I've had to reteach people. But those traumas from bad actors put up walls in a lot of folks. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like, what are your thoughts on this, Ruthless?
Well, so that's one of those things, right? We find ourselves in a situation where our trauma responses become our default responses, and the fundamental mistrust of people around us because of whatever has occurred becomes part of why we we uh we have these staunch rules, if you will. um it's very difficult, I think, if you've had a string of negative experiences that you haven't really internally dealt with, to back out of that and get back to what would be considered a normative state of uh, the default level of trust and respect that the person across from you is telling you the truth about their intentions. Especially when you get into things like games, because I think everybody that's ever played tabletops for more than once at a time, in some cases people have only played once, can tell you we have this um we have this same experience of the player who was playing just to prove their dominance of the other people around them, and so they cheated to show that they were, quote, better than the other people, because they don't really have that elsewhere in their lives, so they choose to do it here, or because they have it elsewhere in their lives and it's coddled, so they do it here in the gaming space, and you experience that. I think that's what the thing that happens uh, to us all as sort of a shared experience then becomes, okay, well, everybody's going to do that because the way to get up in this is to take the advantage by being this kind of person. And I think that gets back to this whole yes, gaming should be for everyone, but there does need to be a lot of more emphasis put on fundamental respect for the person you're playing with, whether that the person you're playing with means a person across from you in a war table situation, in wargaming, or if that means the other players playing with you and the GM slash DM slash storyteller, whatever you want to call them, when you're playing in a more traditional, non-wargaming tabletop scenario. Like we don't talk about giving the other people around us the fundamental respect. And I say we don't. I don't mean like we haven't gotten more into doing that now, but even when I see people
Well,
talk
I know
about,
you don't respect me. All I've been is your little chocolate playmate. That's all.
But seriously, like I look back to my earlier experiences with tabletops. It was why I didn't really play again until college, was because there was really not a fundamental respect between people talked about early on. It's like you go somewhere, somebody's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna play this thing called D&D." Oh, that sounds interesting. What is it? And you explain it to them. Oh well, it's like this. You make a character, you do that. All right, cool. And you sit down to kind of learn about what the game world is, and they don't explain anything. They treat you as if you should have known this already when you sat down. That's a lack of respect. That's a lack of fundamental respect for the other person. Then you sit at another table and you try it again, and this other person is just straight up cheating, and it seems like you're the only person noticing. You're like, I thought we were doing this I thought we were I thought this was a collaborative storytelling process. That's what y'all explained it to me as. And I was like, well, I mean, it is, but that guy just likes to, be important, more important than everybody else. Okay. And then that turns you off. And then you come to something like Warhammer, and someone is just like outright cheating as if, they're a 5-year-old playing a game with you and they keep changing the rules. Like it's just one of those things that just will make you walk away from something because you realize no one actually cares about respect in this space, and everything else you do has such a respect basis before you ever get to any of the fun stuff. And so for me, that's always been the thing. It's always been when I run a game, no matter what kind of game it is, when I have my group chats in video games as well, like there is a fundamental level of respect that is required to be around when I'm around. And everybody that I have ever been in a PlayStation chat with will tell you the same thing. It's the same thing from my previous halcyon days of Xbox Live gaming, in the beginnings of Xbox. Um, there has to be a level of respect there for the other people that you're chilling with, because otherwise, why are we here? And that comes to trust. Trust not to cheat. Trust to be forthcoming with stuff that, hey, you might not have known this, and it's kind of important. Let me just tell you about it just to make sure, and not in a condescending way, not in a I'm better than you way. Just a, hey, you missed this thing here, and you might want to think about that. Either saying it after whatever's over in a wargaming situation, so that hey, match is over. I just want to tell you this. I know you kind of missed this. You messed this up. That's a thing. Or beforehand, hey, I noticed that you're set up to do this thing, and I don't know if you saw the new errata regarding the rules. This thing has changed, and you kind of can't do that anymore. Like stuff like that is a fundamental respect for the other person you're playing with, your partner in this collaborative process. Because what is the sound of one person playing a tabletop? Silence.
Generally tears.
Silence.
Generally tears, and
I mean, tears too, but it's silence, because how can you cry if no one ever came to the table in the first place?
I record some of my Saturday nights, but I'm glad that you brought up the fundamental behaviors of respect, because that's what I wanted to get into next. Some of the things that we can do to show respect, and the things that we can ask for when we confront the people that we don't feel respect us. Okay. And these are things that not only have I done in my gaming life. I'm not giving you some sort of long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I did this thing once and it was magic. I'm putting this out there right now. These are things that I do and have done for years. However, they are things that I repeatedly have to do because I game within an environment where what I call dysfunctional, and the definition of dysfunctional as I'm using it is the behaviors that people engage in that reduce their enjoyable experiences are very prevalent. Okay. And so when I talk to the people that I play with, and if you've ever played a game with me and you're in the chat holla, give a thumbs up, to let the people who don't play with me know that this is how I really roll in real life. Um, I'll sit the person down saying, look, there's a lot about this stuff I don't know, so I'll ask a lot of questions. I'll explain what I'm about to do, and I'll ask if they have any questions. If they do something that I didn't know a rule was, I'd be like, how does that work? Um, but I always come at it from a questioning point without the assumption that I already know. Because when I interact with people, like they know what they're doing, i.e., not in a condescending manner, um, they have nothing to get defensive about. However, that does not mean that people don't get defensive. Out here in Southern California, whole lot of people get defensive from anything out of anyone's mouth that isn't full-throated support. Okay? And if you don't believe me, talk to someone from Southern California for more than 5 minutes, and whenever they have something terrible to say or something that they're uncomfortable, they will either give you the compliment sandwich, um because oh my god, I love everything that you're doing, it's so perfect, it's great, but I need this one thing changed. If you need something changed, it ain't perfect, and it's taken a lot of years for me to show my closest friends that the best way to respect me is to speak to me directly, but they live in cultures where they can't. Direct speech is a form of insult because there are so many different dialects and traditions of English in the United States alone. There's always a barrier. But I do let them know the ways that they can show respect to me. And I ask, how can I interact with you in such a way where you understand that I value you? And then I do back it up with, if I didn't respect you, I wouldn't be at the table with you. Ask blah 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 that I've gotten up and walked away from. Let me tell you that, all that stuff. So you're laughing, but again, I really hate to sound like any of my cousins, but I ain't got time to deal with people that don't like me and don't want to like me. So I'll just get up and leave. And if they don't want me around and they're being passive aggressive, I give the baby their bottle. Because I would rather be somewhere that I'm wanted than force myself into somewhere that's looking for a reason to get me out. Because, I'm tired. But some of the phrases that clue me in on a person that's been swallowed up by the culture of distrust are things like, well, I've never experienced that. That's a really big one. That's a really big one. And notice how I said, that's never happened to me, or I've never experienced that. No. The I've never experienced it, which silently is followed up with, so you must not be telling the truth, because it hasn't happened to me, therefore it doesn't happen. And that's when I start giving the side eye. All right? Okay, and have you heard of Raul? Raul is a Colombian kid that just found a gold bar somewhere outside of Bogota. Oh, you've never heard of him? So he must not exist, right? Like, have you seen Barbados? Oh, wait, that landmass don't exist. That's what I'm thinking. That's not how I interact as much as I want to sometimes. Other phrases, they vary, but they always come with an underlying thing of, I learned this while at tournaments to let the other person know that I'm not cheating. And when you hear them, you'll understand those statements. And I do my best to let people know, hey man, I hear that you're trying to prove to me that you're not a cheater. You don't have to. Like, you really don't have to. I'm not going to remember your weapons loadout. And in all honesty, I don't want to be familiar with what every single weapon in Warhammer 40K looks like for the Space Marines. I don't care. If you say you've got a bolter, I'll believe you. If you say you got a flamer, I'll believe you. As long as you say it every turn. Or if I have a question and you answer it honestly. I'm good, you know? But going in with the baggage of not trusting someone and feeling that you're not trusted uses up the spoons that it takes to have fun. It's like paying emotional taxes in my experience. Would you agree?
Actually, yeah. Um, it is an emotional tax because and I hope people understand this. I want to go back to this really quickly. This is a trauma response. You are having this mistrust of the player across from you because you have gone through the trauma of being unable to trust someone previously across from you. But this new person you're playing against, or this person you played against a million times at this point, that hasn't, broken that fundamental respect, that fundamental trust barrier with you, is not them. like I talk about that barrier, that fundamental trust and respect barrier, for a reason. If you don't have it, because beforehand you didn't know that when that was broken, you should have called it out and caused not necessarily a scene. I think scene's the wrong word for that, but you should have made that everyone's attention so that it could have been dealt with. Doesn't mean that you have to hold yourself in this same space again. There's a reason competitive things in all genres of competition are done in a very rules heavy fashion. They are wanting to level a playing field so that only the skill involved of the person, of each person involved or team involved, however it goes, is being looked at. It's a reduction of variables, just like in the scientific method. I hate to get all science on us here, but
You're on the
that's
right
what we are.
channel. Keep going. Keep going. Just
That's what
quit
this
making
is.
so much sense because I'm getting the Holy Ghost in here.
But that's what it is. It's a reduction of variables so that the only thing that is being looked at is the skill of the team or person involved. It's the same thing on the opposite end in a casual or friendly game. When you are in a friendly or casual space, we are not trying to see who the best is. We're just trying to have fun in a fashion that is equitable to everyone. Equity, not fairness, because fairness is a completely subjective thing, whereas equity is an objective analysis point.
Well, I do want to
So,
cut in real quick though, because I do want to make it clear that a competitive environment should also be friendly. Um, your opposition is not the same as your enemy.
okay,
And
I will
this.
disagree only in that it's not doesn't need to be friendly, but it does need to be. I would say cordial because I like to use cordial when I don't mean like polite or professional or things of that nature. But yes, there needs to be a like in competition. You should still have respect for your opponent, but it doesn't mean you have to like your opponent. There are people who I've
Okay,
competed against that I
I will definitely
despise.
give you
Like,
that one since
yeah,
most organized play has a randomization in who you're playing against. So I will definitely give you that. But yeah,
well, I just think
cordial.
back to some of the StarCraft tournaments from my past. Shout out to everybody who ever played StarCraft back in the day. Like, there's some people that I played against in those days that I absolutely hated, but it's in a like this. We are competing against each other. We go hard at each other. I don't have like a personal issue with you. I just vehemently despise the strategy you use to play this game, and like there is a fundamental like me and you gotta go are gonna go hard when we go at each other. Like this is not gonna be a nice fight. This is gonna be a very it's one of those situations. And there are other games where I play where, yeah, I may get into a trash talk situation. It's not personal. I'm not gonna attack you as a person, but I'm definitely in that space. And so I understand that for some people, the only way to get their competitive self to the space itself is to be in that trash talking, not really like personally disrespectful, but in game, in competition, disrespectful fashion.
where they do not like their opponent, because some people they can't be competitive without disliking the person across from them in the moment. So that's the only pushback I'd have there. But it doesn't mean that you're not professional and cordial outside of the actual physical competition itself. Like, if I'm playing football, my team does not like your team, but when the game's over, we're not going to be like, you know evil people to you. That's unnecessary. That was always my thought process.
You see, and again, we can do another show on this at another time, cause with the trash talking and the putting yourself in the hate and the opposition equals the enemy mindset, that is something that I see a lot, and I look at it in the same way as playing with water guns that look like real guns. That's something for the
Mm.
in group, because when an out group player, even a new out group player, is playing with an in group person that plays like that, that gives the in group person carte blanche to be mean, or not mean, cruel. Back in my days of War Machine, for people to get the psychological edge, there was a few there was some crap talking that had an undertone of I'm not talking about War Machine. You know, some of it was anti-black, some of it was anti-me, some of it was anti my girlfriend, and again, it was, well, I'm just that competitive and all that stuff. And I'm like, look, if I got into your mindset of being competitive, could I punch you in the mouth and get away with it in the same way? And this is one
See,
of
but I
those
don't
things,
I
huh?
don't think that that's I don't think that that's ever okay in a competitive space. Like,
Mm.
there is a when I say, like, there's a the player strategy I despise. There's a when I uh when I was definitely in the shape uh to handle some of the online, competitive tournaments for, like, other RTS games that I was into at the time. Like, it's not so much a hatred kind of thing. It's a dislike. Like, you need to see them in a certain light internally to do a thing. Externally, you may not express that at all in the slightest, but it's okay to have that internal drive of, no, I have to beat them because I have to prove whatever the thing is you got to prove, like, internally. But if you're getting to that place from, something about the person and not about, what you were up against, that's not showing a fundamental level of respect and trust for your opponent still. You're
Aha.
still violating that,
Yes,
because
and
now you're using externalized factors of who they are as opposed to what they're doing.
and
I have a problem with Zerg players in StarCraft that has nothing to do with the people who are playing the Zerg. I just don't like Zerg, and that's, like, go have fun, live your life. I have no problem with you as a person. But when you step into StarCraft with me, like, that was the thing for me. And so that's what I mean by that. Like, have a problem with inside the competitive things strategy. If you're a chess person, if you use, a more Kasparov style, to your chess playing, maybe somebody has a problem with that with you. And again, I'm using all these references because they are very
y-
similar to what we're talking about
well,
with
yeah.
Warhammer.
Oh no, I definitely get where you're coming from. I just want to make it very clear,
Yeah.
um, about the trauma responses and the behavior versus the intention,
Hmm.
since so many people lie about intention. And this
Oh
is
yeah.
what causes the initial trauma that perpetuates the behavior of everyone being on edge. On every, the, um, when they go into the mindset thinking this person hates me or I have to hate this person or all of that stuff. In RPGing, it's called bleed. Okay.
Yeah.
When the character bleeds into the real life, and that can bring certain stuff up. And when it comes to the in group out group dynamic, okay, i.e., from the people of color, women, LGBTQ, going against people in the in group, the people in the in group, especially in the areas that I've been at, um, feign that fundamental respect, act
Hmm.
disrespectful, and hide behind that mindset of it's just how I competitively get. It's that kind of thing. I don't have anything against you. Although I've spent the past hour and a half of this game talking about your mama, your weight, your girlfriend, and your ancestors, you know. And it's like, I get that. And there is a certain line of behavior, and the trauma comes in with the act, but it's solidified when the environment, i.e., the rest of the store, the rest of the tournament, tells the person who's fundamentally being hurt that that's just the way the game is played, and they need to be less. They need to take things less personally, instead of looking at the member of the in group saying, "Dude, you don't talk about people's mamas when you're at the table." Especially if you don't know them. Like, if it was you and Ron, that'd be different. We can be like, dude, that's just how they are. They're like that at the pizza parlor, but they're good. They're like that one fraternity that they got some sense. They just don't act like it. But the in-group people, being the popular people at the store, the mean girls, the jocks, the culture that has come up around a lot of competitive things have been put up in favor of their bad behavior. And this is something that causes trauma in a lot
Hmm.
of players, even in those people, in those very people within the in group. They still have that kind of trauma as well. And some of the things that we can do is take a step back and re examine what respect means. What it means to respect your
Thanks.
other player, and how to behave in a respectful
Hmm.
manner, not just have it internally. As I said, if I was the kind to get super competitive, or when I get emotional, because someone is disrespecting me, my very first impulse is to hit them in the teeth, not the mouth, the teeth, with a brick. But that's not appropriate behavior. Even if I was in the in group, it's cool. But a lot of us on the out group, i.e., most of the people watching this today, have been members of the out group that have been disrespected, or have had to jump through 100 hoops to prove that they are not cheaters or monsters or outliers or part of the out group, um, because of this type of culture. They've had to do those types of things, and it is paying the emotional tax. So, the question, you got a comment here in the chat coming from Kamen Gamer Nefas. You are a Zerg. He is a Zerg man. Being 6'1" and weighing 250 pounds in the 7th grade, there were times during Yu Gi Oh! Or Magic the Gathering tournaments where people crossed the wrong line of trash talking, and all I'd do was stand up and say, "But can you beat me, though?" um, you know, and I try
I
not
want
to.
to shout out to our fellow Thursday night gamer, Nephis, who of course plays Chuki in our Thursday night game with M10. Yeah, I entirely believe that story.
Yeah, and but again, there's also very much the outgroup problem of violence or name calling or crap talking or saying personal things is never the answer when they're saying it back,
Hmm.
you know. And there's a lot of people out there with that kind of trauma. I see it a lot
As
in
the saying
significant
goes,
others.
it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. You know, classic saying for a reason.
That would have given hours and hours of amazing Bugs Bunny cartoons. I ain't gonna lie.
I mean, look. I mean, seriously, look what happens when he gets the gun
Hey,
in
I
every
said it was
loser.
duck season. So
Like there, I mean, there's something to be said for it. But yeah, no, I and I'll let his comment of being a filthy Zerg main slide for now. I still like you a little bit less, but I still like you.
What's going on, Power
But
Commander?
that's the reality.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that you mentioned is also really important. Those groups, the mean girls, the jocks, those ideal groups from our past, and we'll let the pizza parlor bit slide because you showed both of our age with that one. Um, it's one of those things of you're coming to a subculture that is not mainstream enough that most people have heard of it, and you are acting like the same people who treat you unfairly and disrespectfully outside of it. And
Yeah.
I say this to people who play D&D. I say this to people who play, especially people who play Warhammer, because y'all have no idea how little people knew or cared about Warhammer until Henry Cavill said something. Like, you are fundamentally not mainstream. In the same way that comic book fans were not mainstream, in the same way that anime fans until the mid 2010s really were not mainstream. Like, you are not mainstream in the slightest, and you treat people who are new to your hobby the same way the people who have disrespected you in your life have been treated. That's a trauma response. You are turning into your abuser because you fear being abused.
Well, it's also a cultural thing of the idea of pecking order.
Yeah.
This is where Karens come from as well. It's the, well, I don't have power over here, but over here, I'm the big dog. And I'm going to act the way that big dogs have always acted. Versus acting the way or treating people the way you wish you were treated when you were the
Mm-hmm.
new guy. You know, i.e., and again, this subject is really hard, and I recognize that, viewers. I realize it's very hard to walk that path, especially if you are living in the United States currently at this time in 2023, where this is very much a culture of pulling the ladder up behind you when you get to the top. Um, Presumably, there was a time where when you made it, you kept the door open for the person behind you, but that's for our show Tuesday night down by the docks. Um, dress plainly so they can't get your picture. Um, but the behavior and the trauma that's in and all is very important. It's very important to recognize these things and recognize when the person isn't against who you are, but they are being reflective of the culture that they come from. And once that happens, okay, once you have that realization, you're presented with not a false dichotomy, but a divine dichotomy. The choice of, do you help them heal so that they can have fun, or do you choose to not interact with them? These are these are very empowering places to be. Some folks, I'm not saying there's no hope for them, but I will say that I don't always have the spoons. and like, real talk, one of the people that were close to me for a very long time, like over a decade, I did not have the spoons to play with this person because they always went to sour grapes, and any game that I didn't lose at while playing with them essentially came with a tantrum. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to play with you. This is not fun.
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But recognizing where that mentality came from definitely allowed me not to look at them as a terrible person, just a person that behaved in a way that was not compatible with my enjoyment. Okay? And notice, behave. Not who a person is, but what a person does. And once you're able to internalize these things, you can make the choice on how to or how not to interact with these people. Um, Anything before we close out, bro?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of capstone, that comment. Um, I never want someone to feel like, because they now understand that these people's reactions to them are fundamentally inside of a trauma response that they need to be the one to help guide them through correction. Unless you are a licensed and practicing therapist, it is not your job to fix anybody. If you choose to help someone on their journey to getting past that trauma response and back to the right place as their friend, their loved one, whatever your relationship to them is, that's fine. But never think you have to choose to do so. In fact, sometimes it is better for you to just call out that behavior so that they can see it in themselves and other people around you can see it, whether they need to avoid that person or they can be the ones to step in and help guide them. But never feel like because someone disrespected you, but now you know that that might not have come from just them being a mean person, but that they might have some other issue. Never think that that's a piece of advice from me or Solar for that matter, telling you to fix that person and that you have to be the one to help them. We do not tell you to help your abuser around here. That's not what we do. But now that you understand that this is a thing, you can look out for it more. And in some cases, protect yourself, but also know that it's okay to call out that behavior. Again, always focus on the behavior, like Solar was saying. Focus on the behavior, not the person, because they may be a great person away from the thing that you're doing, but in the moment, they are disrespecting you and mistrusting you. And so call out that behavior for what it is. Sometimes people don't even realize that it's a trauma response for them. But again, never feel like you have to help somebody who is bringing ill intent upon you, if you will.
You know, I love when I have you on the show. It's like, wow, I got a lawyer here. That's great. Thank you for the disclaimer. That is that is really fun. And yeah, and I guess since we're doing those, yeah, I don't want you guys to think that I'm telling you that it's your job to heal, because it is not. It is absolutely not. You have the choice to try, but keep in mind it is a choice, not an obligation. And you can always choose to say, nope, I'm gonna go do something that's more fun. I'm gonna go hang out. I have one friend who is very difficult to play with. And before they moved out of the state, they were like, hey, you wanna come over? And I'm like, nah. Like, I wanna come over and we can hang, but I don't wanna play any games with you, dude. My calipers are out. I don't feel like measuring microns. It's not cool. I don't have fun doing that. But we can do other stuff because we're still friends. And because this friend of mine was an adult, they understood it and they appreciated it. So yeah, no is always. Oh my God, what is going on? Chat attack. Wait, are we being rated? Are we being rated? I don't know. Let me double check because I haven't gotten the. Okay, no, we're not being rated. All right, it's just the chat attack is here saying, "Hey, what's up?" And I appreciate that. What is going on? I miss you, by the way. I know you're the busiest man in the world, doing all the editing and all the streaming and all that stuff, but I still miss you, man. You been to my home. We had Sizzler. Anyway.
uh,
Yeah. So, but yeah. So seriously, some of the things that you can do to keep things fun for yourself, um, some of the things that you can do for yourself is to understand where you're at, because if you don't have the spoons to deal with certain players or certain mindsets or certain eventualities that may come, that gives you the option to choose to do something else. My ride or die is coming over today. We're going to be playing some 40K because he hasn't played 10th edition, and I'm showing him Combat Patrol, and hopefully that'll be cool. And this guy tends to get tilted. However, he cut his teeth in these toxically competitive environments. So, as my friend, I'm choosing to show him that there is a different way to play that he may enjoy. However, because I don't like saying but's where crap comes from, and I don't like talking all that crap. However, and this is a really, really big thing, um, when he goes to tournaments for games like Marvel Crisis Protocol, Star Wars Legion, blah, 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 he's
Hmm.
like, man, you should join me on this. I'm like, nah, pass. Just pass. Um, I taught him how to play Marvel Crisis Protocol when it came out. Then I came across a few anti-black players, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm putting these figures aside. I ain't playing that game, um, because I don't have the spoons to deal with that level of anti-blackness. And it took him a
Yeah.
while, but he got it. You know, so he doesn't invite me to these toxic competitive environments that he goes to because of their anti-blackness, but he'll play pretty much anything in the world with me and the people that I bring to my home and all of that, because I try and cultivate an all welcoming thing where, when he's like, what, I'm just talking crap to make them better. I'm like, did they ask you to do that? Well, no. Ah, okay. So if I were to start punching you in the stomach to toughen you up and work on your six pack, you'd be pretty mad if you didn't ask me to do that, right? Because, medicine ball training, boxing, that kind of thing. Right, exactly. So,
Hmm.
you know, um, and so that's kind of a thing. But I take that upon myself by cultivating a community. That's one of the costs I got to pay. And if you are not cultivating a community, you are under no obligation to help people learn differently. However, however, you are under an obligation to make your rules, your expectations, your needs known to people who you hope to fulfill them. Because if you don't do that, and um, I've seen people get in a bagging contest and somebody pulled a yo mama joke and they didn't know that the person's mom just died. And then it came to blows, right? And it's like, whoa, Twan didn't know that his mama died. Oh, dude, my bad. Yo, I get it, bro. I get it. I didn't know, man. I'm sorry about your moms. That kind of thing. Um, but had that been out there, then they would have been bagging in a different way, and your mama jokes would have been off the table completely. So you know what I mean? So, you know,
Hmm.
it is your responsibility to show your parameters of what respect is in your behavior and verbally. If you want people to reciprocate, they got to know what to give you. You don't just go to Target and hand them $100 bill when you're trying to get gum. You got to know how much that gum costs. you know. So yeah, and this has been a good show, man. I'm glad that you were able to come here with me.
Yeah, you caught me in my new weird sleep schedule, to be honest. Um, and and actually, just to answer your chat person there, yes, Gaming Fix Live, I am waiting for a kidney as well. And it has finally sped up the process. That photo you're seeing right now when I talk is actually from February of this year. I'm about 70 pounds lighter now, so I'm getting much closer to transplant time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really feel like, that's that is, the reality. It's a beautiful thing to be able to respect the person across from you and still get the competitive juices flowing. It's a beautiful thing to be in a casual, fun game and just do fun stuff with your friends. Um, I won't tell the full story because I've told on my TikTok, so please go over there to look at it. But we had
Smooth
one of the
plug.
most. I'm pretty good at this. I'm pretty good at this. I'm gonna tell you. But
I'm
we
not
had a
going to tell
really
the whole
fun.
story. That's over at my TikTok at the Ruthless Wonder. But like I was saying.
Yeah, yeah. We had this really fun encounter in the Thursday game with M10 a while back where
Oh, bruh.
with,
Yeah.
with these orcs, these orcs are singing smells like Teen Spirit, and Solar and I's characters like are not on good terms at that moment. Like they are actively mad at each other. And it but it comes together between their tension, this like very clipped communication, as well as the very, very dangerous situation that the party is in, all at the same. Yeah, Nephis knows exactly what we're talking about. Um, like, like it's a great situation because it's like all this stuff came together to make a very fun thing, but our characters have to act like they're not okay with each other during all that.
Oh yeah.
But once the session was over, it was back to normal. This is us. We've been friends for quite a while now. Like this is not an issue between me and him.
Dude, the
But
GM was
he
like,
can-
okay, let me just pause this Zoom meeting. You doing good, bro? You want a soda? And I'm like, bro, I'm an actor. And you're like, bro, I'm a role player.
Like it was really good. So, you know, that like I said, that's one of those things about respect that I love. If you have it, you can go into places that are not comfortable if you don't have that respect. So that's why I always come back to that as a thing. As far as, you know, other quick plugs, my book, The Man Called Dragon, comes out August 4th. It'll be available in multiple online retailers, but stay tuned over the next couple of weeks, this weekend and next as we get to the 4th, for the actual like physical locations, because it may be in more places than I originally thought I was going to be able to get it into. So The Man Called Dragon is my...
no, there'll be more places to sell my novel, and then I'm gonna have to go on a book tour and thank people.
I wish I could get
it,
I'm not famous, man. I don't get a book tour, man. Like, I'm just gonna read some excerpts on some streams. I'm gonna do one over on M10s. I'm gonna do one on my my various social media. But The Man Called Dragon is my kind of love letter to all the books that were big influences on me as a kid. So you definitely get that feeling of, you know, reading old school detective pulp fiction. You know, in old school film noir as well. Like, I'm a very big Maltese Falcon fan as a kid. I loved From Here to Eternity, so I've got some influence from that into it. But it's this very love letter to that sort of classic thing. And true to form as the supervillain you love, this is not a nice guy. This is you are cheering for the bad guy in this book. So I really look forward to sharing it with you guys on August 4th. Other than that, you can always find me in random places appearing on other people's stuff, because right now I don't have a show. I am not currently trying to have a show. As I said, I'm waiting on a kidney, so I really just don't. I'm not in the mood to be like, yeah, let's work on a show every week. We're just not doing that. We're not doing that. So you'll find me popping up places, but on social media, you can always find me as The Ruthless Wonder, not A Ruthless Wonder. And yeah, that's how you find me.
Awesome, and thank you, man. Again. See what just happened there? I was talking crap, and I pulled from Marissa Tomei on that one, but you know, he knows I got none but love for him. Oh, pobrecito. Oh, my book is going to be distributed in more places than I originally thought. Oh, more people are going to read my work, and I'll have to do signings. Oh, no. You know. But yeah, seriously, man, thank you. Thank you for reaching out. I've missed this. I really have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did too, man. I always have fun when I'm on here.
You know, so that's cool. And we got a few other people in there. But for you guys, I want to thank all of you for showing up here tonight. Major thanks to Neon Arlecchino for, you know, doing just enough for me not to have to put him under his bridge. And major thanks to Fried One. Thank you very much. And to some of our people who haven't been here for a while, like the Ultimate Girl Gamer. I've missed you, and thank you for being here. And Nephis, you know. And anytime I'm ready for you to talk to me about them disease-ridden zombies. And I knew it was you. I always knew it was you. And yeah, so thank you guys. And Neon Arlecchino has put up the Discord invitation. Join us there. And if you got any questions, comments, compliments, anything like that, well, that's really easy. All you got to do, okay, is pull up your email and head on over to backinthedeck@gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK @gmail.com. You can also follow on Twitter and Instagram, also at Back in the Deck. You can hit me up on TikTok at BidP, that's BIDPY. Join Deckers on the book. Post what you're working on, what you're writing, what you're building, what games you're playing. You know, you might be surprised. We may actually be able to help you out on that kind of thing. Join us over on the Discord, and we got a couple of other things coming down on the docket for the next couple of months. So, getting a few things fixed in the manufactorum, and that should be fun. So, with all that being said, have yourself a cup of coffee. And remember, if anybody tells you that you can't like what you like because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, neurospiciness, or your budget, because anybody who's ever been to one knows that the trailer park is always just a few blocks away from the hood, you can look those people dead in the windows of their soul and tell them, take whatever card they're pulling on you and put it back in the deck. I am Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, being here today with the Ruthless Wonder, not a Ruthless Wonder. And until then, I gotta say thank you for joining me. Support your WGA and your SAG-AFTRA people. And of course, we will see you next time on the dark side of
Solidarity.
All right.